No, I think I just maybe a few closing comments. One is, if you're in this room or you've been exposed to this, there's a reason behind it, and it's not necessarily just you. There's people, you may not know them yet, but through who you are and the reach and relationships and centers of influence that you represent, you'll have an opportunity that might actually turn into a little bit of an obligation to share. It doesn't mean that every person will participate in it, doesn't mean that every person will have a unique experience, but enough will that you'll get your own confidence about what it is that we've been doing here. And I've never ever met anyone that's been invited to come here that wasn't here for a reason. Now, whether you believe in a God, whether you believe in a pantheon of gods, whether you believe in metaphysics or stars in alignment, there's just some basis for you being here. And I would challenge you to lean into that and figure out what that is. If you are a medical professional, you set out to help people. And I've got good friends that are doctors and dentists, and there's a track they get on, and I used to do consulting and advisory work for surgeons. I was amazed how frustrated they were with the world they lived in. They set out to be medical professionals and found themselves in a hedge maze of insurance and regulatory management. It was hard. Maybe that resonates with some of you in this room, but they weren't just looking for alternative forms of income per se. They were looking for areas where they didn't have to feel so controlled by the machine, and they could actually offer solutions that might be higher impact without having to navigate that hedge maze. So I think there's an opportunity there to provide that, and think about that for yourself, and then maybe your own networks of people. We all know that whether it's an approach to traditional professional services, doctors and medicine in the past, it's changing. It's moving with science. I think there's an openness to comprehensive solutions and not addressing everything from a symptom manifestation standpoint, but from an actual holistic and preventative approach. And I think that's very relevant with what we're doing. And I think we're humble enough as a company to be a good place for the right people. We're not a fit for everybody, but I do feel like the consciousness of our company is that we have an opportunity to help people, and we should do it if we can. I will say this, my dad set out to achieve worldwide distribution of ASEA. That was the only thing he said. I said, what do you want to do? He said, the vision is simple, achieve worldwide distribution of ASEA. I have begun to think that that the further I get away from his vision, the harder it gets. Mm-hmm. And the closer I get back to it, the easier it gets. And the reason I say that is because of, who's to say there's not a child somewhere, suffering? When you get to a motivational hierarchy of like, first level is like survive, next level is compete, I want to be competitive, third level is I want to be excellent, I want to be like, I'm motivated by excellence. And then there's like the tip of that pyramid is cause. And I once talked to a guy, like, why do you keep working? You don't have to work. He was financially stable. And he just said, because if I don't do my job well, someone will suffer. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what a beautiful way to approach life, that you actually see your contribution as reducing the collective and individual suffering that might exist in the world. And I think there's a spirit or a force behind that approach that can have its own momentum and its own approach. So I look to my dad in my mind's eye, who is turning 85 this year, and I think, all he really was trying to do is get this to the people that needed it. To the degree that you are part of that, whether you want to call it network marketing, you want to call it medical professionals marketing, who cares? Like, at the end of the day, everyone that makes something is trying to get it to the person who wants that something. And if it's something that's really relevant, then you want to try to disintermediate or shorten that interval as much as you can and find the person who needs it and get it to them as quickly as they can. The world, including regulatory and huge money, does everything to intermediate that process. They try to make it more difficult and more challenging. And so there's something really beautiful about the approach this represents. I feel like it shortcuts getting it to the people who need it, because it takes empathy to open your mouth. It takes a certain amount of belief and faith and empathy that says, I'm going to open my mouth, because if I don't, someone may in fact suffer. Not everyone's motivated by that, and I get it. We live in a world where things cost money and cost goes up. But the times I feel most tangled about this company are when I forget that that was really all my dad was trying to do in the beginning. He just was saying, I think we have something that can help people. Wouldn't it be neat? And I used to walk in the house, not uncommon, and I'd see kind of a tri-folded piece of paper and his reading glasses on the table. And I could tell he had been emotional. And I grew up with this dad who was very stoic, like never showed emotion, kind of mean sometimes. He could have relaxed a little bit, kind of grumpy. Maybe that was his commute outside of New York that was so long and just hard. But here he is in his 70s, telling me he's living the best 10 years of his life after starting this company in his 70s, right? Which is really cool. And then he says, and he would just point to these letters, and he would say, what am I going to do about that? And that's what he would say to me. He'd say, what am I going to do about that? And I'd be like, well, what is it? And he would just say, read it. And it would be a family. It would just be a letter that made its way to our house. And it was just like a really neat story of hope and of impact and good things. And here's this curmudgeon of a guy, big Fortune 50 executive, who had been, I could tell, had been emotional reading it. And he's like, what am I going to do about that? And I said, you should probably do more of it, because that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. And I think we could do a lot of good in the world if we just kept doing more of this. Everybody's going to be critical of us. You can't play in this world without getting criticized, but there's something beautiful when your give a blank breaks and you just don't care anymore. And that's where I'm at. Like, if you want to put me under the microscope and tell me I'm playing some game, that's your choice. I don't really have time for that. Because if I do my job well, somebody's not going to be suffering as much. So I'd rather run on that track. And the days when I'm least happy here, I'm like, are you getting away from just what we originally set out to do? And the answer is, yep, I am. And the days when I feel like I've got it right are the days when I'm just like, how do we get this to the person that needs it? Like, not how do I build a business and sell more boxes of this and make the incentive trip. It's just, no, how do we get this to more people who need it? That's kind of pure and makes me happy. Yeah, so anyway, thank you, David, for recording.
Thank you.
I'm going to excuse myself. I would just say that if you're here for some reason. I don't know what it is. Worst case, you had a good day and maybe some decent food and met some people. Best case, you may be saying, you know what? Like my dad did at age 70, we're going to do this. And I was like, you're crazy. And he's like, no, I'm doing this. And he did it.
He did it.
Bless his heart, he did it.
My God.
And I think it's blessed a lot of lives. And whatever it means for you, whether it's a little or a lot, I know this, it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And the world needs more good things.
Yep.
Amen.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to leave you in capable hands. See you.